time at least. He's also created a ROM hack that is rather popular with Mutsky, I believe, with like a hover challenge ROM hack that he made that you guys should definitely inquire GLS about whenever possible. So, all right, looks like this race is now underway. So once again, sit back, enjoy this race action for you this evening on Speed Gaming 3.
All right, so we are going to start off as per usual in the escape. You don't have a whole lot of anything, so you don't have a whole lot of much you can do except walk and occasionally match a perpendicular direction if you're facing north or west, and that's called pumping, and that's all I've got to say about that. But we're going to make our way through, jump in a hole, and find our uncle who has twisted his ankle or some such thing.
And I guess since he's sitting there, we might as well take the sword and shield from him. Seems like that could come in handy perhaps later on.
And it's not like he can get up and chase you to take it back or anything. I mean, he's just an idiot that sprained his ankle in the sewers.
We're obviously not a fan of playing by his rules anyway, as he tells you to just stay at home, and the first thing you do in the game is just leave. So, not a big fan of authority, Link.
Well, he's not my real dad.
All right. So it looks like we're nice and synced up here. You're probably not going to see a ton of difference in times throughout this escape segment. Really, it's going to be maybe a matter of a few seconds. Escape is just one of those, beginning segments. You kind of close your eyes, and then about 6 minutes later, it's over. So really only a few spots to kind of be looking for. Slightly different strats we see there on killing that very first key guard. Kothor opting for the left slash, and GLS opting for the slightly more consistent and safer upright slash.
Yeah, the left slash is the most optimal way that you can handle that guard, but the up slash is not slower enough to really bother until you're really grinding the game down to a frame level. So
you can even just slash that guy 3 times and it really doesn't lose that much time. So,
yep. So we're gonna hit this blue guard with a quick poke spin, open the boomerang chest, and pick up that key, and make our way further into the dungeon to meet the final boss of the game, the ball and chain guard.
Yep, pretty much after we defeat this guy, game's over, and we can all go home.
Yep. So it's been fun talking to everybody. Thanks for joining us on Speed Gaming.
All right, let's see what strats these guys opt for. GLS going for at least a 1-pot strat. Kothor opting for the slightly more difficult 8-slash strat, but you see he gets the key just a little bit ahead of GLS as a result of that. So still a very, very tight race, though, for you.
Yeah, one of the things that you'll notice throughout this game, especially with Kothor and the study he's been putting in, and GLS and the method that he learned the game, you'll see a lot of variations in the room, in the various rooms, but sometimes the optimal strat is only frames faster than the safe strat. So that between the left slash and the up slash, the 1-pot and the 8-slash and the ball and chain guard, you'll start seeing those little differences creep in.
Yeah, pretty often what it comes down to is just what the individual runner is more comfortable with and what they feel that they can actually personally execute on a more consistent basis. So you won't necessarily see everyone going for the most optimal strats all the time, but that doesn't mean that they're not capable of getting a good final time. So
yeah,
almost into the second half of Escape. I mean, we are in the second half, but more naturally divided by the throne room that's going to be coming up here, which leads into the sewers.
Yep. Kothor throwing that crooked stick to knock some green guards out of the way. GLS had a slightly clearer path, it looked like. So one thing about Kothor, as you mentioned in the beginning, previously he'd been spending most of his time, grinding Yoshi's Island, for a good portion of last year, specifically because, like you said, he was in that 4-way Yoshi's race. But in the past few months, when the signups for this tournament, he's really been putting in the grinding sessions. Every few nights, you'll see him online playing along, grinding with the tutorial. So I think you will see that pay off for him as this tourney progresses. Meanwhile, both of our racers making their way through the sewers, dealing with the snakes, getting the key, and moving on. Now, this water room, it is probably the one place where if you're not going to pump anywhere else, water rooms and staircases where you can double pump, at least do those.
All right, so slightly different RNG potential in this room. You see Kolthor getting a pretty fast key rat, while GLS has to deal with the ever so hated Northwest key rat, which is how you're going to lose the most time in there. It's not a huge amount of time, so we're just talking about in terms of low seconds here. So
yeah,
still not a major difference separating these guys towards the end of escape here.
GLS having a little bit of a conflagration with some rats there, but gets through. Pulls the switch. And a 602 for GLS, and it looked like a 558, 559 for Kolthor.
All right, so we got our first major safety decision of the game coming up here. I expect both of these runners to be grabbing the Saint Heart. Very solid safety, gives you obviously one extra heart. GLS experiencing just how wide those hitboxes of the NPCs are.
That is one sticky priest. So our racers are going to make their way through this first overworld segment on the way to Eastern Palace. Once again, we have no real method to go fast yet, so it's just a lot of walking and avoiding soldiers, and particularly these Octoroks. Kolthor making it through the minefield cleanly, GLS screen behind, having to stop and deal with a few of them.
You may be wondering why you don't just save and quit and just go back to Link's house and then go to Eastern from there. It'd be much faster, and you'd be right. But unfortunately, with this category and this set of rules, we do not allow save and quit. It kind of makes for just a more naturally flowing speed run. There aren't really any major breaks in it, and you just hopping from one place to another. So it does require some more of this overworld travel, but it just means more screens to optimize, which means more frames to save. So it sounds like a good thing for speedrunners.
Yeah, the difference between the two, the no save and quit category, as you said, has more overworld screens. The save and quit category that is starting to gain a little bit of traction takes away those overworld screens, but adds an element of difficulty where you start each segment without full hearts. So Kolthor making his way into this 4 Stelphos room. And does the right thing, triggers only 2, and picks up the heart.
That was nice. I don't know if it's just because his stream is 30 FPS or something, but it looked like he didn't even turn around to throw that pot backwards. That was really smooth.
GLS handling it just as well.
Here's kind of another decision point as to whether or not you grab these arrows here in this first pot. Most runners will definitely opt to do that. If you do not grab those arrows, you are taking a 1 in 8 chance that you're not going to get an arrow drop at the end, in which case you would have to pick up another pot, which is a little bit more out of your way than that original pot is.
Kolthor getting dinged by a skeleton on his way back through the Dark Key room, but not too much damage to be taken there.
All right, so Kolthor is going to execute a little trick here. We're going to abuse Link's iframe state here to get past these anti-fairies in order to pick up the pot and hit the switch to grab this big key without having to kill all of the enemies in this room. So neat little trick there to save some time in that room.
Suddenly that GLS having issues with it too. He's going to go ahead and pick up a heart. But suddenly that half heart that Kolthor took in the Dark Key room plays a role. He's down to 1 heart, which means that any incident involving an Igor will be a death. Meanwhile, GLS has 1.5 hearts. He can sustain a hit from any enemy in the dungeon.
Yeah, so let's pay close attention to this dark room. There is a heart in this top right pot if he wants to grab it, but he's pretty confident that he's going to be able to make it through these next few rooms. And there's a heart pot not too far from here, so I think he'll be just fine.
Yeah. Another thing to note, GLS got a 20 drop after his dark key room, so he's sitting well for the rupee route.
Man, these pot throws from Kolthor are just spicy. I swear, he's just releasing them so quickly. It seems like a small thing, but it is a small thing that if you carry a pot for too long, Link is moving a little bit slower and you can lose a little bit of time from it.
Yeah. You know, we talk about, well, real quick, this Armos quick kill from Kolthor. He goes top right, 5 right, gets to the top left, and fires the remaining 13 arrows down, and shoots one out the door. Swag from your friendly neighborhood barbarian.
He's just leaving it there for the next guy that comes along. Just an extra arrow lying around. That's where the single arrow comes from, I'm pretty sure. So thanks, Kolthor, for putting that there. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yep. GLS also getting that top right Armos quick kill. Nice, clean Eastern Palace for both of our racers. So, yeah, you talk about, like, getting those pop throws off quick, and, yeah, that only saves, like, 5 frames, and you talk about saving 5 frames here, 10 frames here. Well, there's 527 screens that you go through in the optimal NMG route, and if you can save 5 or 10 frames in every room, that adds up, you know, that adds up to minutes. So it's those little micro-optimizations tightening up the movement throughout the game that really start separating the top tier of runner from the next tier of runner.
Ooh, GLS is whispering some secrets to Saw here. I think maybe we'll see him go towards the back of this cave and pick up some rupees behind here. He's going to probably do a slightly different rupee route from what Kolthor is going to be doing, but they should both end up with 110 rupees at the end of Light World. So GLS has already taken care of his rupees, and we'll talk more about how Kolthor is going to snag the rest of his later, a little bit later on.
Yeah, GLS probably even thought about going for tree rupees. I know it's not his normal strat, but once he got that 20 in Eastern, he probably thought that tree rupees might be a bit safer, but still stayed with his normal game. Meanwhile, Kolthor
slipping and sliding.
That library spin speed done correctly maybe saves 20 to 30 frames, and then you lose it all if you miss that staircase.
Yeah, it's one of, I mean, spin dashing is one of the cooler glitches in the game. You'll see it here again from Kolthor, a little more smoothly executed, but it's one of those things that can almost be as much of a curse as it is a blessing, because you're moving at dashing speed and you can change directions, so your movement has to be really on point in order to actually save time with it. We'll see how GLS handles it right here.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to get a grasp of how hard it is to control the spin speed movement. When the camera is following you, you kind of lose a sense of how fast you're really moving. But I recommend, you know, anybody that wants to get an idea of how difficult that is, go to a room where the camera is locked, like the Ice Rod Cave, and get spin speed in there, and you'll just see Link's movement is actually a lot faster than you think in that state, and it's pretty hard to control optimally. Meanwhile, take a look. It's in a book, a reading rainbow to open up Desert Palace, and GLS making his way through the Desert Overworld as well.
Strangely, I didn't see any butterflies flying out when Kolthor did that, but it must just be a visual glitch in the game.
Well, they're all afraid of his barbaric tendencies. So now that Kolthor has some boots, he is presented with all these wide open spaces to dash in, and that is pretty much the lay of the land here in Desert Palace. Ooh! Dashes right into that Beamos. That's pretty much the design here in Desert Palace. You just got the boot, so they're going to give you some place to stretch your legs. And we're going to go ahead and see Kolthor dashing through the Cannonball hallway. 32 different patterns here. Some of them let you through cleanly, some of them don't. Let's see what he gets. Yeah, has to stop and redash.
Yeah, it looks like you even get that kind of strange offset RNG, but it looked like he knew how to handle it. If you walk down from that chest quite a ways into the sand when you get that bad RNG where you have to stop, you'll be able to just dash right on out.
Yeah. Another thing to notice, look at Kolthor's arrow count. He's going to have 30 going into Landmola's. He is set up pretty nicely as far as arrows go.
Yeah, that's a really good feeling for sure. If you don't know, the boss of this palace is Lanmos, and it's going to require at least 4 arrows being put into each of those 3 worms. So he's going to want a pretty solid amount of arrows. Even if he has 100% accuracy, he'll be really well set for the arrow routing throughout the rest of the run.
Yeah, one other thing to pay attention to is that you typically want to finish up Desert with somewhere around 14 rupees. And you would think that those 6 that he's missing wouldn't be a big deal, but you know, there was a 5 pot that he walked right on by. I'm not sure if he didn't know if it was there or if he's counting on drops here from these popos.
Yeah, it'll be a little more obvious why he wants 14 once we get past Hera and on our way to Agatera, because that's when Kolthor is going to finish up his rupee routing, and that'll make a little bit more sense then.
Yeah. Meanwhile, GLS finishing up the first half of Desert, Kolthor lighting the torches, and he is on our way to face Landmola's 3 worms made of pure RNG. You've got, as you said, to put 4 arrows in all 3 of them, and it'll either go well or it will not.
Made of RNG and the tears of 1,000 speedrunners.
Ooh, really
wow,
good first cycle.
Yeah, that is a solid amount of DPS coming out of Kolthor there on the worms. It's like he's polished 1 off in the 2nd cycle already. Getting into the 3rd. Ooh, he almost has a late 3 there.
I think he's 1 poke away.
Just fires an arrow to be safe anyway, but early 4 cycle is definitely something you'll take every time. So nice fight by Kolthor there.
Meanwhile, GLS right behind him, lighting the torches. Kolthor with 16 arrows leaving Desert. That is a good feel. So GLS going to bonk. That bonk and a buffer up puts you in a good position. GLS with a really good first cycle, too.
Yeah, dealing with that short hop really nicely. Here you're seeing some of the really bad RNG you can actually get with Landmo. When they hop out and they just pretty much go instantaneously back into the sand. That's some of the worst RNG you can see with these. But GLS really handling it very nicely.
Great. Is that an early 3?
I think that was like an early mid-3, yeah.
Very nice. So he picks up 6 to 7 seconds on Kolthor just with that alone. You know, didn't even get a chance to say it, but when you get those short hops and the arrow flies and misses, you can't fire another one until it hits the wall. So it's he cleaned that up really well.
Yeah. Speaking of 6 to 7 seconds, that's what Kolthor just saved there by doing a glitch that is known as fake flippers. GLS is going to be doing the same thing in just a little bit here. You'll see that he'll get to the very edge of the screen such that when he jumps in the water, he only needs 1 frame of movement to actually transition the screen. And the game's going to get confused and see that he's in water and just assume that he has the flippers from there and just continues letting him swim.
Yeah. The only thing to look out for is if you take damage after screen transitioning with fake flippers, it can soft lock your game. So you've got to be on point with your swimming and get to that whirlpool. No problem for GLS.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with both of these guys' gameplay so far. GLS especially, considering that I know that he personally doesn't get a ton of time to play the game. So yeah, nice to see him performing well so far.
Yeah, I know GLS is, in particular, has been traveling a lot for work and also is in the same boat as me with having a little one at home to take care of. So that kind of cuts into the gameplay time, but he's obviously found a few minutes here or there to get some practice in because he's playing about as well as I've seen him recently.
Yeah, sounds like Kolthor is going to be in that same boat as well.
Yep.
You guys are going to have to form a club of dads of A Link to the Past. You can just make terrible dad jokes in Twitch chats everywhere.
Already on it.
Yeah, you're forging the path, that's for sure. Showing everyone how it's supposed to be done.
So,
go ahead.
Kolthor got beat up a little bit climbing the aggro crag, took 3 hearts of damage. He's going to have to keep an eye on that health as he progresses through Hera. GLS also getting the same treatment. This, and a little bit more. This mountain is ruthless. Just rains down squirrels and cabbages on you. So GLS will have to take care, especially in that tile room coming up, if you are not paying attention. More power. All right, Kolthor finishes up the tile room and is going to pick up the key here in the chest. All right, GLS is going to go for the boom dash.
Most certainly is. It looks like he's setting up for it. Okay, takes a heart of damage, decides to bail out of it. Probably a solid decision.
Yeah, I'm a boom dash aficionado as much as anybody, more so than most probably. And at 2 hearts, I don't think so, Tim.
That's awfully bold, considering that in the next room he's going to encounter 3 mini Moldums, which are going to one-shot him.
Yeah, it is possible he may consider a post-Big Key Death Warp. We'll have to see.
I wouldn't blame him at all for it.
Yeah, he's being careful there.
Yeah, meanwhile, you're going to see Kolthor set down a bomb here, and he's going to get close enough to this gap to where the explosion is going to boost him over so that he can grab the Moon Pearl without having to go all the way upstairs and fall down to grab it.
Yeah, so there's GLS taking his Death Warp. He's going to get some hearts back.
Yeah, good decision, I would say.
Meanwhile, Kolthor is finishing his climb of the tower, and he had hit that safety switch. Also a smart race play to get back up to 4 hearts for Moldorm.
Yeah, the way that most runners tend to approach races is much different from RTA. You'll probably see a lot of the top runners still kind of doing their same RTA strats, but even then, you'll see maybe even some runners still grabbing powder that wouldn't normally grab it otherwise, or hitting safety switches here and there. But that's absolutely legitimate, because at the end of the day, your final time really doesn't matter, except for seeding for brackets, but at this point it just matters most that you beat your opponent. Looks like Kolthor had a relatively clean Moldorm fight. I didn't see any falls or
GLS
like that. But speaking of
does
falls,
not get the dash off in time.
Yeah, it looks like he knows exactly what to do, though. He knows he's going to have to mirror out.
He does not. He hit the safety switch.
Oh, well, I guess he could if he wanted yet another bomb. But then he'd have to clear these beetles again. So
well, he stopped off at Saha, so he got that 3-bomb chest. He's okay.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. All right, so we're going to see the conclusion of the rupee route coming up here on Kolthor's screen. He still has 9 rupees, so he's actually going to have to grab... he's going to pull on this tree and get some blue rupees. He's going to need to grab probably at least 3 of them, and he does so. Because he wants 24, because now what he needs to do is kill 4 enemies during this little sequence without taking any damage. And then when he pulls on another tree here in Lost Woods, he's going to get 4 red rupees out of it, bringing him to a total of 104. He'll get 6 more naturally in Agatower, which will bring him to the 110 he needs. So avoiding damage here in Lost Woods nicely. Gets looks like he's going to make it to the Master Sword just fine, so he should be okay on getting his red rupees here.
Meanwhile, GLS bailed out of the bomb jump, went upstairs, triggered the star, and took the natural path, falling down to the big chest.
Yeah, I can't blame him at all for that. If you're feeling a little bit shaky after failing it the first time, there's really no reason to try and test yourself and say, well, I'm just going to keep going for it. And if you fall again, that's just really painful. So taking the smart way out and just taking the sure thing.
Yeah. So GLS now atop the Tower of Hera, facing off with Moldorm. The Moldorm fight has elements of randomness and elements of staticness to it. He's going to... Oh, no!
That's unfortunate. Yeah, Moldorm, he can be a troll. His movement can be definitely very unpredictable at times, especially if he goes to the edges. So yeah, definitely can be a very tough fight, even for the most seasoned runners.
Yeah, what I was starting to say about how it has elements of staticness to it. Moldorm will perform a set number of random actions, but then he has a scripted movement where he will make a beeline straight towards the player if he's been able to make all of those random actions without encountering the edge. And that's what GLS ran into. He started his dash, and Moldorm headed straight for him, and he was just clipped the hitbox in just the wrong way, and unfortunately took that last heart of damage. But he's going to be going back up with 4 hearts this time. So
it's a nice arrow drop from the Kadongo there too, so that's going to be helpful a little bit later on. Ooh. Okay, so a little bit of an interesting thing to note here. You see Kolthor just got a heart drop there, and just remember that little fact for now. I'm not going to overload you with any facts, but just keep in mind that Kolthor got a heart right there at that point in time.
Yeah, so GLS revisiting Moldorm. Okay, and makes it out alive. So, meanwhile, Kolthor is climbing Aghanim's Tower. Aghanim's Tower is a really fun dungeon to kind of optimize. You've got a number of rooms where you have to kill all the enemies in order to proceed. And then a few other rooms where it's just movement to optimize. But coming up, you're going to see 3 of those kill all enemy rooms, including this first one where you clear out the two red guards. Another pair of red guards that he's going to double spin one of them and clean up the next, and then the infamous circle of pots. Which he gets through with minimal problems.
Shoutouts to that green rupee grab, by the way.
Of course. That 111th rupee will pay off dividends.
He's gonna tip someone later on. It's gonna make their day.
I think he'll be investing it wisely, personally.
Yeah. Okay, so Kolthor is now approaching a potential source of RNG that can really even up this race rather quickly. You see GLS here actually grabbing the mushroom in Lost Woods. It means he's going to be exchanging that for some powder later on, which is a nice little safety. So, but Kolthor coming up on the Aghanim fight here. The way this fight works is you get a certain round of attacks from Aghanim. You get 5 attacks in a row. The first one's always going to be an energy ball. The next 3 are 50-50s as to whether they're an energy ball, which you can reflect, or a blue ball, which you can't. And then the 5th attack is going to be a lightning, which you can't do anything about. So pure, complete coin flip RNG on these blue balls here. Let's see what Kolthor ends up with. First one's energy. To answer a question in chat, getting the spin speed off the stairs in front of Vaga, while extremely fun, and I highly recommend everyone to try it at least once, is not any faster because you have to actually slash the curtain open. So you have to cancel your spin speed at the end anyway, and then slash the curtain open. Did Kolthor get
that 0?
I didn't see any blue balls, and the fight was over so dang fast.
So this is going to be a sub-30 light world for Kolthor?
Yeah, it looks like it. That's going to be sick pace for him, actually. His PB is a 1:30.19, so getting a sub-30 light world is something that you don't even necessarily see as a sub-1:30 runner all the time. So Really nice pace from Kolthor. Kind of unfortunate for GLS, especially if he gets some bad RNG coming up here. So let's hope he gets the. Let's hope Aga is just super friendly and gives them both 0, so we can make this a nice even match.
All right, 30 on the dot. That is a solid light world for Kolthor. He has got to be on pace by a non-trivial amount. So we collected 110 rupees, and now we will find out why. So here we are, as GLS makes his way through Aga's Tower. Kolthor is making his way through the overworld, the Palace of Darkness, and in this hedge maze up ahead, he is going to encounter the greediest little monkey Hyrule ever saw, a purple little guy named Kiki. And Kiki, for whatever reason, says he'll follow you for 10 rupees, and it turns out that he then has pulled the old bait and switch, and for 100, he will actually let you into the Palace of Darkness. So,
but Kolthor is outsmarted him. He's going to have at least one left over. So
absolutely.
GLS experiencing one of the more painful rooms in Aga Tower, going with the just kill everything method. He makes his way through there. Sometimes the best thing to do in that room, as weird as it sounds, is to just let everything hit you and just use your iframes to walk through it. So,
yeah,
but definitely a very painful room in Aga Tower.
So Kolthor is going to pick up some keys, and he's going to pick up a small key, a big key, and then head off to do probably one of the more, not probably, definitely one of the more impressive looking tricks in the run. We're going to be coming up on the hammer jump, which is, well, Greenham, can you tell us how the hammer jump works?
Sure thing. So the hammer jump itself requires 2 very precise positions that Kolthor is going to execute. He needs to drop the bomb in a very specific spot and also put Link in a very specific spot on the y-axis in order to boost himself across the gap. Like we kind of saw in Hera earlier when he used that to get to the Moon Pearl. He's going to do kind of the same thing, but he's going to do it horizontally so that he gets across the gap, kind of gets into a rail so that he can get access to the big chest which contains the hammer. This saves from having to go all the way down into the basement and grab the small key that's down there and then go through that giant dark maze to just get to the hammer from the other side. So we're going to see that trick right here, and pay attention to if this mini Helma drops anything when he kills it. All right, so no drop there, which is a very good thing. What this means is that he's preserved his prize pack for later on so that he potentially can get a fairy later on in T-Rock. So you see Kolthor doing the positioning that I'm talking about. He's using pause buffers here to check his position. He's using some visual cues around the bomb.
He was too far from the bomb, I think.
Yeah. Well, it must have been that, or it could have been the position he planted the bomb.
Yeah, so
it's kind of tough to tell.
Yeah, all of the visual cues require seeing specific pixels on the screen. But even if you do get the 2 y-axis positions, just due to the nature of how Link moves, obviously when he gets boosted, he moves so many pixels per frame. And if that movement pattern lines up with the rail in an unfavorable way, you can get both of the y-axis positions and just smack into the rail and fall. There's only a few spots where that can happen, but it's almost impossible to tell until it happens.
Yeah, so pretty unfortunate, but Kolthor recovered pretty nicely, and he got it pretty easily on his second try. So he's going to be making his way through the rest of the pod here. GLS, I saw
also got 0.
No, I saw at least a few blue balls. I'm not sure exactly how many. Hopefully the chat can chime in and tell us how many you got. But oh, I swear that statue moves. It moves. Kolthor missing the arrow on the static target there, having a bit of an archery contest, but definitely not the worst one I've ever seen.
And another thing to note that even though you know, after having to kill the mimics and fire 2 arrows at the stationary target, he still has 7 arrows. You know, that early bounty of arrows that he stumbled across is still serving him well.
Yeah, that's a very solid count to have at this point. He's definitely got the right number of bombs and a really healthy arrow count.
Alright, so as GLS makes his way towards Palace of Darkness, Kolthor makes his way to the Helmasaur King fight. The Helmasaur fight is a 2-stage fight. The first thing you have to do is break the mask off with 17 hammer hits. After that, you need to either slash 8 times, or spin 4 times, or hammer 4 times, or any combination thereof. Meanwhile, you're dodging a tail and some fireballs, and just ooh, nice fireball despawn there from Kolthor.
Yeah, so what Kolthor did there is on the 17th hit, which breaks apart Helmasaur's mask, it creates a bunch of sprites, little sprites on the screen, and the game cannot handle that. So since a fireball was coming out at that point, the game decided, well, I'm just going to get rid of these fireballs and make sure that I put all of these, you know, face mask exploding sprites on screen. So nice use of that tech there.
Yep. Yeah, Kolthor had a pretty clean fight. Had to dance around a few fireballs, but generally a clean Helmasaur fight. Meanwhile, GLS has started collecting his keys here in Pod. He got the basement key, gonna get the key on the right side, the big key, and then head towards Hammer Jump, picking up another key on the way. So, Kolthor, meanwhile, having finished up Pod, is going to make his way to Thieves' Town, canonically the 4th dungeon, but just for speed purposes, it makes more sense to do it 2nd, as it will provide the item to get the Tempered Sword. Along the way, he's going to stop off, pick up a shovel, promptly break the shovel, getting a flute, and free a duck from its weather vane prison.
Alright, so what you just saw Kolthor do there was an item dash where he was using both the dash boots and the hammer at the same time, which he triggered by pressing A and Y at exactly the same time. Really cool technique to be able to dash and actually use whatever Y item you have equipped. Can be used to get through pegs quickly, as you just saw right there, and some other applications as well. Let's see how GLS's bomb jump goes here. Looks like he's on the right spot to plant the bomb. Looks like he's just going to go with the single bomb variety. I think he's 1 pixel too low. Yeah, he had Link. He put Link 1 pixel too low, unfortunately, there. So not grabbing the right bomb, but his count's still okay. So using some select buffers here now. Alright, looks like he has some good cues for using select buffers. He gets Link in the right position this time. Maybe something was wrong with his cues, actually. I'm not sure. He should definitely be picking up that other bomb in the right pot, though I totally understand how you wouldn't think of that in the moment, probably with nerves and everything at the time. So it looks like he's just going to bail out of this option and go to the aforementioned basement to grab a small key and grab the hammer from the other side.
All right. Meanwhile, Kolthor is freeing the duck, and one thing he did, he was probably tried to item dash after while playing the flute, but must not have gotten it.
Alright, so GLS grabbing some extra bombs, so he's gonna definitely be safe on that count when he gets to in this dungeon. And yeah, I don't blame him at all for getting lost here, because I definitely wouldn't know my way going through this direction. But he was going to plant a bomb here and blow open the wall and get to the hammer and be on his merry way.
Yep. Meanwhile, Kolthor entering Thieves, sub 40 entrance time is pretty decent. So, the Thieves Town dungeon is supposed to be a bit of a maze. Obviously, you can't see where there's paths to move and where there's not. But once you know where to go, you actually miss out on a significant portion of this maze. We just collect the big key and advance on through. And we're going to see another really either fun or awful room called the Hellway coming up.
And it's so interesting how you forget about these dungeon designs and just how complex and confusing they were when you played them casually. But as you're speedrunning them, you don't think about it at all. And you see somebody in a dungeon wandering around, you're like, what are you doing? How can you possibly not know which way to go? But I mean, the people who designed this game really knew what they were doing. So here's the Hellway. It looks like Kolthor got some bad RNG there. So.
Yeah, so that's a piece of knowledge that you pick up as you've played the game for a few years. You know, as soon as he entered the room, he could have read the Patrick Star that was moving directly down vertically, and could have known that he would not get the God Pixel Dash, but lacking that information, he went for it and is now down an additional heart. But he bombs the floor and is now going to rescue the suspicious lady in the basement. Meanwhile, GLS entering the Helmasaur fight.
What do you find inherently suspicious about her? Is it the fact that she's in a prison cell and nobody's really guarding her that well?
That would be it. that would be the first.
Might be part of it. Like, hey, I don't actually need any keys to unlock any of these cells. Interesting. Alright, GLS cleaning up the helmet fight here. He's at 1 heart. He needs to be a little bit careful on dodge both the fireballs and the tail here. Nicely done. Using some slashes to stay safe and finish up the fight. Shoutouts to Syncard.
Meanwhile, Kolthor has picked up his shiny gold gloves and is going to continue his impromptu date with suspicious jail lady.
You think that's what he would put her in his phone as?
Yes. Yes.
Alright, so Kolthor rolling into the blind fight here. As everyone knows, it is rather scripted, so you need 3 pokes in these 3 phases here to get out of this fight. Kolthor looks like he knows the script, knows where to be just at the right time with his sword out and waiting, letting blind do most of the work here. Nice. Good kill. Solid fight. And he is going to be rolling on a Thieves Town.
Yep. Yeah, so when we say that's a scripted fight, basically what we mean is that if you do the same thing every time, blind will do the same thing every time. So a few years back, one of the Link to the Past, I guess, pioneers, Cypher, recently known for his Rockman 2, Mega Man 2 world record, devised that particular blind fight where if you do that, you will be able to kill blind as quickly as possible, the same way every time, and it turns... Ooh. That bird hits hard. It turns a seemingly random chaotic fight into a trivial exercise in rote memorization.
Ooh, man.
This is not good.
TLS is on the struggle bus here in the Thieves overworld, and it can be a really, really tough one, especially exiting pod there. That bird dash, getting past that Dacto there, is actually really tough. He is fast as all get out, and like Scrivo said, he hits like a truck, does 3 hearts worth of damage. So I'm pretty sure GLS knows the Apple Bapple backup, though, so he should be able to refill his HP before he gets into Thieves Town.
Yep. Meanwhile, Kolthor is going to use those shiny green gloves, pick up a rock, and rescue a frog. And it turns out that that's no frog, it's an old man. Because video game.
I think the Mystery Machine is parked somewhere nearby.
They would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for this meddling elf.
Yude asking the important questions in chat. Yo, but how many digs? If it ain't 5, get out of here.
So GLS is trying the arm spin speed again. This is one of the times that you really just do need to do it. If you try to walk past that red guard, he's going to get into a fight with you. And as we saw in the first race at the tourney, a lot of times he'll win. But with spin speed, we can just run on past him. GLS, meanwhile, stopping off for a drink at the bar and taking the empty bottle with him. And gonna go and pay a visit to Make-A-Wish kid here, hanging out in the house behind the bar, and steals his bug net.
What is the kid's wish? I don't think it's to chill out in that house in the village all day necessarily. He wants to go out and catch butterflies, right?
Must be the butterflies missing from the desert cutscene.
There we go.
You like how I brought that back around?
Good stuff. Alright, so GLS should be flying off. He did pick up the mushroom, so I'd imagine he would be going to the witch's hut after this.
Yeah, I don't think that GLS is up on the fake powder tech, so he'll just get the real deal.
Kolthor is approaching, and it was, in my opinion, what is the worst room in the game. Let's see how it goes for him. Always seems to go better for everyone else than it does for me. Well done there by Kolthor. That was well handled. Perfectly executed. Exactly how you want to see it every time. Nothing can ever go wrong in that room. I take it back.
Alright, so Kolthor is going to do now the third bomb jump of the run. The Skullwoods bomb jump, which is nearly identical to the Hera bomb jump. Same exact mechanics, just a slightly different way of setting it up. But he gets across.
We saw the apples coming out of the tree there for GLS, so he did end up refilling himself.
Alright, now Kolthor is going to make his way back through the first part of Skull that he visited and head to the back half of Skull, wherein waiting for him is the real butterfly in the sky, Mothula. Meanwhile, GLS making his way through Thieves Town.
That's kind of interesting. Kolthor looked like he canceled his dash up there and then got a little bit trolled by Mini Moldorm. Mini Moldorm, definitely some of the worst enemies in the game, in my opinion. Their movement can be extremely erratic and tough to deal with. So, but getting through this mummy hellway very nicely. This room is also deceptively hard. Gets through that very nicely as well.
But mind that heart count. The question is he going... Okay, so he's going to keep that fairy for Turtle Rock and go into the Mothula fight with 4 hearts. But he's going to try to line up a dash here to get 2 quick hits. Only gets 1. Gotta worry about those spikes.
He's also using his fire rod and slashes to try and interrupt this attack from Mothula that you see him doing. And yep, gets the last slash in there. Cleans up the Mothula fight. The Mothula fight can be pretty bad because if you end up slashing him and he touches spikes, for reasons that we won't necessarily go into right now, he just doesn't take damage. It's just a bug in the game. So it can be a very, very trolly fight to kind of deal with.
Yeah, the short version of that is the spikes are meant to damage enemies, so they have to assign it a weapon class, and because you're not going to have the gold sword at this point, they assign it the gold sword weapon class, and make the gold sword weapon class do 0 damage. Which is why also if you get to the moth fight with the gold sword and swing it at him, it does no damage, so.
Well explained.
So GLS is now on his way to pick up Suspicious Jail Lady, and Kolthor is going to go bug some fish. And the hot question that everybody is asking right now, are we going to see the swag block?
I was hoping you were going to ask that question. I really hope you were. Well, not the RNG for it, unfortunately. Sometimes that moblin can walk to the right and throw a spear at you, and as you're charging your dash to go into the next screen, you can actually face the opposite direction and block his spear to the left, and then finish your dash to the right, and it just looks cool as hell.
Meanwhile, GLS using that powder bottle and net that he just picked up to put a fairy in a bottle, which should set him up for a slightly safer path through the rest of the game, as he can collect more as he needs them.
Answering a question in the chat here from Song Leaves, is it faster to mirror out of the Skullwoods big chest room or to bonk back over the gap? Considering the fact that you have to menu to the mirror, and then actually menu back, bonking over is actually faster. But the fastest thing to do is actually just intentionally fall into the hole, which gets you out of the room quickly, but it also gives you iframes as you're coming out of Skullwoods, which lets you just completely walk through one of the ropes that's outside waiting for you there. Yeah.
Another example of a room that has 3 or 4 different ways that you can handle it, each one frames faster than the next one, so... GLS
I think
is...
it's a good thing he picked up that fairy.
Yes, it is.
Again, that's a solid race decision.
That's what happens when that fight goes off script. It starts getting chaotic and hectic, and... Alright, cleans it up with a dash into blind. So, meanwhile, Kolthor chucked a rock at a fish, got a Quake Medallion, and now throws 500 rupees at another fish, gets some flippers. The economy in this video game is just baffling.
I mean, do you really think it makes any more sense than our own? Come on.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Alright, so Kolthor on can be a particularly troubling screen. This warp looks pretty big, but really isn't, so you gotta actually swim pretty precisely to get into that warp, and swimming in general, how it works in this game, can be kind of a frustrating mechanic, so Kolthor gets in there pretty nicely. He's going to be heading into the Frozen Ice Palace.
Yes. So, hiding at the end of this Ice Palace, you will not find Anna, you will not find Elsa, and you will not find Olaf, but you will find Pokemon Reject Cold Stare, waiting to take your health and your joy.
Kind of glad I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'll just let it go.
Wow, okay.
You know.
So I was lying. I did know what you were talking about, but I didn't want to admit I knew what you were talking about. Thanks for sneaking that one in.
You're welcome.
Alrighty, yeah.
Alright, so video game. GLS is going to get the Tempered Sword while Kolthor is making his way to the final bomb jump, the Ice Palace bomb jump. This one is... First, real quick, these two Stelphos are linked in such a way that if you set one up to be killable, the other one's killable, which is why that quick kill works. But now, Kolthor is going to get into the Ice Palace bomb jump. This is another case of having to get to... in this case, you have to get to one of 3 specific X-axis pixels, place the bomb on a Y-axis pixel, and then move down to another one to position yourself for that bomb boost. Very well done.
Yeah, this bomb jump is actually really important to the route. Otherwise, we would have to go the casual way through Ice Palace, which, if you've ever played this game casually, you know is a pain to have to backtrack a bunch of times through here. So we just do a bomb jump, leave the pegs up, and we're just going to be done with it.
Ice physics, terrible as always.
I was just going to say the same thing. Is there any game where ice physics are actually good? Because this is not one of them.
No. The ice movement, we could talk for like an hour straight and still not fully explain how ice movement works. So just take our word for it. It's trash. But Cold Thor is now moving on to Cold Stare. As I said, pink little Pokemon reject hanging out in an ice cocoon in the basement, and he takes he takes 8 fire rods to thaw out, and then we'll see which strat he chooses to go with to clean it up.
Yeah, he looks relatively harmless, but I assure you he is not. Each one of those puffs does 4 hearts worth of damage, so
oh no,
4 right there.
Uh-oh.
So Cold Thor,
no!
no!
Down goes Cold Thor. So we've got to talk about route. So Cold Thor is out of magic. He cannot get back into Ice Palace as he is equipped right now. He has 2 choices. He can either farm the Buzz Blobs outside of the Ice Palace, hope to get a small magic, or he can choose to move on to Swamp, complete Swamp. Okay, he gets a full magic, actually. That's
perfect. That's exactly what you want out of that, yeah.
Yeah. If you don't get the magic, a lot of times people will just whip out the flute and go move on to Swamp because you get the full magic refill at the end of that. But we don't have to worry. But Cold Stare hits fast, hits hard. You're expected to have the blue mail, but obviously we don't because we try to go fast. Unfortunately, the missing layer of protection would have been nice to have.
Yeah, but Cold Thor has built himself up a pretty decent lead here, but that can definitely even things up just a little bit. And obviously, if he goes down again to Cold Stare, I sure hope he doesn't. But we could definitely have a race on our hands after that point. Yo, nice bounce off the bumper by GLS walking out of the room there. I don't know if that's any faster. I think it can actually be faster, but it's pretty difficult to get it as such. I think there's actually maybe you can use the bumper to get over to the key pot faster or something too. There's some strat in there involving the bumper that's really cool, but that was still cool to see regardless. Nice to see him having a little bit of fun.
So we get to revisit the Ice Palace bomb jump. This is not a good pixel, I don't think.
Yeah, he was way too far right. You were right about that. His second lineup was fine, but he didn't get close enough to the edge. There are 3 pixels at the edge here that are good, but
he didn't wait in the door.
You're right, yeah.
So he's possibly going to fall again here. Nope, he got it. Okay, he knew what he did and adjusted at the last second. There's some weird mechanics that if you fail the bomb jump and then immediately move out of the door, you get placed on a different pixel, and you have to know to change your setup slightly.
Okay, GLS. I think he does have a fairy that he collected right before he walked in here, so he is okay if he goes down. He'll be able to get a refill and hopefully finish off the fight.
Yep. Yeah, the unfortunate... Okay, he finishes up Mothula. The real unfortunate thing about that fight, the longer it goes on, the more spikes that are moving, the more lag that's generated, and it's just hard to adjust on the fly as the lag grows and grows. Now, Cold Thor is going into the Cold Stare fight with even fewer hearts than his first attempt.
Yeah, he can take exactly 1 hit from the falling ice and 1 hit from the puffs, and he'll be dead.
Yep.
I mean, that's exactly what we don't want to see, so...
he got all... No,
That is another option! That is also another option.
So you need all 8
He's
fire
just going
rod
to take
shots.
a death here instead of mirroring out, I guess.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you need all of your magic meter to actually melt Cold Stare's shell there, so...
I am not a huge...
He's sitting here contemplating his options a little bit. Looks like he's gonna truck on through, though.
So, Kolthor is... Everybody... There's a few different timing mechanisms you can use to make sure that you don't advance past the ice shell and fire your 8th rod shot into the wall. And Kolthor is doing this kind of diagonal walking pattern that I gotta say I'm not a huge fan of, because if you're, you know, I like walking straight up into the ice and getting my ice rod shots off, because if you are touching left or right, you have a chance of that exact thing happening.
Yeah, you're exactly right there. If you drop any of those up inputs, you're just hacked. So that's a good call on that strat. I mean, it's probably what he's comfortable with, you know, and probably normally it goes just fine for him. But yeah, that maybe is a slight variation on the strat that he could potentially employ to be a little bit safer with those fire rod shots. But who knows? It may have just been one of those things you can chalk up to nerves. I've definitely done it on more than a few occasions.
Yeah, and there's also the question of, you know, there's different. People have different philosophies when it comes to races like this. For instance, you know, you don't really gain an advantage by knowing, you know, what your opponent's doing, because, you know, you're both doing the same thing. This isn't a randomizer or a puzzle. The question is Kolthor watching Greenlinenshirt? Does he know that he's still ahead? I know that there's not many situations where you can die twice to Cold Stare and still be in the lead. And luckily for Kolthor, unluckily for GLS, there's been a lot of misfortune on both sides.
Okay, well, I was actually worried he wasn't going to get past the bomb jump again here, but able to make his way through.
I would not begrudge Kolthor for, once he drops down, taking a trip north a couple of rooms and picking up a fairy to refill his hearts.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has even less health this time.
Yeah, he sure does. Yeah, you just got to do whatever you have to do to win the race. You know, it doesn't matter if it's going to cost you a little bit of time to grab those fairies. So yeah. Definitely would not shame him for doing that.
But all of a sudden, GLS and Kolthor are for a while they weren't, but they're on the same split. You know,
yeah, it doesn't take much at all for a race like this to be evened up quickly.
He's just going in 5 hearts, and
yeah, maybe, you know, maybe he just took a moment at the door there to kind of collect himself and just say, okay, look, I know I can do this. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to do exactly what I know how to do, and I'm going to execute it. Come on, Kolthor, you got this. Nice. He gets it. Good job, man. Way to hang in there.
And he does the other smart thing. Once he kills those puffs, he gets out of the way because he knows another ice crystal is coming. I have seen plenty of people kill those puffs, stand still, and just die. Yeah, they don't...
No premature celebrations, please.
Yeah, don't relax too soon, because that ice is still falling until the heart container spawns. So
GLS in the same dungeon now as Kolthor, so has definitely closed the gap quite a bit. Definitely, the dungeons don't get much easier from here. We're going to go through Swamp, which will be slightly easier, and kind of a little bit of a respite from the difficulty of these last few dungeons, but it's going to turn on in terms of intensity and difficulty right after that.
Yeah. Yeah, Kolthor and GLS's PBs are only
less than 5 minutes apart.
Yeah, 3 or 4 minutes apart. So it's all right. GLS is using a few more bombs than he would like, but luckily he picked up that extra 3-bomb chest in the pod dark maze, so not a big issue. But yeah, he's either watching GLS's screen and he realizes that he's still in the lead, or he's got to be sweating bullets.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I'm kind of curious. We'll have to ask him if he does hop in for the interview, whether he was watching or not, because yeah, you're right. You know, what if he isn't watching and he's solely just thinking like, man, those 2 deaths right there, and knowing just how close their PBs are, he could think that GLS could have passed him, or it could just be right on his butt. So I think either way, he's going to do his absolute best to execute on the rest of this run here.
Meanwhile, GLS with full hearts is making his way.
Experiencing the joy of sword beams.
Sword beams and ice physics, the two worst things in this game.
But you do like having full health here, that's for sure.
Yeah. I am fairly certain that we're going to see GLS take a quick detour and powder an anti-fairy.
Quick shout-outs to M-Chan for that room that Kolthor just went through. Got the RNG, killed all three of those Tektites with a single dash.
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see... There's only one person in this tournament stupid enough to do sword beam strats on Cold, and he's currently on commentary, and that's me.
That's not true, actually. We saw it in a race earlier today, I believe. I want to say it was Tear. Maybe it was in that race. But somebody definitely earlier today did the sword beam strat on Cold Stare, so you are not alone, sir.
That's unfortunate, because it's a really bad strat.
Well, he executed it just fine, so maybe the problem's not the strat. I'm just saying. Alright, GLS is Cold Stare fight. Let's see how this goes. Dodging the ice. Emptying the clip with the magic. Times the spin nicely. Gets Cold Stare in the corner here. Gonna finish him off with 6 more slashes. Got a hidden puff under there. He keeps slashing until he's dead. He doesn't stop till he knows for sure. Grabbing the heart container. Gonna catch the crystal, and he is out of here.
Alright. See, if Kolthor remembers the switch, that's a mistake that you can make easily when you're on tilt, but no such problem for him. So just to recap so far, because we've had a number of adventures take place. On the right side, GLS was having a really solid race with a really solid Eastern and Desert, but then fell to Bomb Jump and Hera and took a death on Moldorm to put him a little bit behind. Meanwhile, Kolthor got 0 blue balls on the Aghanim fight. Kolthor then had a pretty solid Palace of Darkness, a pretty solid Thieves Town, got a solid Skullwoods, but then took a death to Cold Stare and then ran out of magic on the refight, allowing GLS to make up a little bit of time. So they're back on the same split, evening this race up, helping to make up for some of those early miscues by GLS and average out some of the 0 blue balls that Kolthor got.
That was a nice little arrow drop there. Unfortunately, a little bit out of the way for Kolthor to grab, but going to be grabbing the hook shot here. He's setting up to put himself on a pixel to where he can just hook to the right twice here, which is kind of a nice little setup. Saves a little bit of time. Looks pretty cool.
GLS, meanwhile, kicking up dust at the switch, but finally gets it pulled. So, as you mentioned earlier, Swamp is the second dungeon canonically. It's crystal number 2. But it's just faster to get here later in the game. First of all, the boss fight is a lot easier with the Tempered Sword. The routing makes sense. So you're not going to take a ton of damage in the dungeon. But there's just so much RNG and enemy movement to account for that it's easy to just lose a lot of frames to unforced movement errors or just to bad enemy patterns. Like that one.
Yeah, that room especially can be frustrating because I don't know of any strat that's actually 100% there where you won't get hit by those guys. Sometimes you're just going to get hit no matter what you do.
Yep. Kolthor getting the door frame dash there, very nice. And then he is going to hop into the pool, swim through the Michael Phelps room. And I don't know that we're going to see a 0 cycle, but maybe we will. We'll see. Okay, he is going to go
Everyone does it now, man. Everyone, I swear.
But he has to bail out because he hooks the puffs in the wrong order and then got charged. So he's going to fall back and get the 1 cycle.
Yeah, 1 cycle. Argus moved once, but still a pretty decent fight. Gonna go for the Fire Rod quick kill here. Nice. Gonna change over the mirror here. Nicely executed. That Fire Rod quick kill saves about a second. And, you know, obviously just looks really cool. So the 0 cycle on Argus, if he would have gotten it, would have saved him about 6 or 7 seconds more. But even going for the 0 cycle, if you manage to get a 1 cycle out of it, still really not that bad, because that's about the best you can do with the normal strat anyway.
Yep. It's really weird. So thinking back to like the last NMG tournament in 2016, there was only a handful of people that even thought about going for the 0 cycle.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
And now, like, you're seeing, I mean, I got it.
Yeah. If Scrivo can do it, I'm positive anyone out there can.
It's true. I'm a literal moron. I have no business holding a controller. So,
no, but it's impressive, really, when anyone at all can do it. It's a very difficult strat to get the glitch state that you have to be in to do the hook dash, and then also reading the RNG of Argus as he's charging around at you and killing the puffs in the correct order and everything. So, definitely one of the most difficult quick boss kills in the game, if not the most difficult.
I think the one thing that you can attribute people picking up the more difficult strats to is the proliferation of the practice hack by poor little Pincus. You know, back in the day, you had to have a game saver, and you had 1 save state, and you could practice that 1 save state. But thanks to poor little Pincus and the practice hack, you can fire up your SD to SNES, go anywhere in the NMG run, and grind out any given room to your heart's content. It has just revolutionized the way that we all learn the game.
Yeah, it's super fun. I can personally attest to that, and it is really actually addictive. If you look at the community room sheet and you start comparing your times to other people, and you see their names, and you're like, man, how is that time even actually possible? And that's really the only question you have to ask yourself, and just, you know, start going crazy on the practice hack. If you start streaming practice, people will show up and they will start unloading knowledge on you, undoubtedly. So, yeah, just take a moment here to shout out the ALTTP community for definitely being one of the most supportive and helpful communities that I've ever come across.
Yes. Yeah, it's actually really a unique thing about the 3 major Nintendo IP speedruns on the Super Nintendo. Super Mario World, Super Metroid, and Link to the Past all have really solid practice hacks and really solid communities behind them. Yeah, it is also fair to point out that save state feature that was built into poor little Pincus's practice hack actually did find its genesis in ACMLM, who wrote the initial save state code that makes a lot of the magic happen.
Yeah, so many cool robots. I mean, people in this community that have a variety of talents and offer up their services. So,
Bird toss?
maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, Kothor's a fan of memes, I'm pretty sure. And axes. And tiny dinosaurs. Alright, GLS Argus fight, what you got? Going with the old standard hook and slash. This fight, you can end up pretty easily with getting a 1 cycle. You get some pretty bad RNG here with Argus charging him rather quickly, so he has to kind of bail out and play it safe. Meanwhile, Kothor is heading into Mire 2, one of the coolest looking rooms in the game when executed well. Wow, that was really well done. I think he even did the optimal version there, where you killed the bottom Popo first, and then cleans up the rest of those Wizardrobes without them spawning again. Nice little room there.
Yeah, unfortunately, GLS was a little slow with hooking the last 2 puffs. Ended up with a 2 cycle, but
GLS, you need that. GLS.
GLS.
You need the crystal. Yes, good.
There you go. Okay.
He wasn't sure if he wanted it or not, you know? He's reconsidering his actions. It just finally all hit him at once. He's like, man, what am I doing with my life? Should I really be killing all these monsters? Am I the monster?
It turns out that the monster was the friends you made along the way. Wait.
I don't think that's how that goes. Alright, let's check out Kolthor's torches time here. It can be a good little comparison point so that we can see how far apart these guys are. Look like 1:14:45 by my mark.
Yeah, and that shows, Kolthor's normal torches time is probably closer to a 1:08. So that shows the 2 deaths to cold generally cost about 3 minutes each. So shows that up to that point, he was probably pretty close to PB pace. Hey, Meyer Big Key, not an optional item.
Definitely going to help him get through the rest of this dungeon in a timely manner. You'll also get the Cane of Samaria out of it, which is a pretty cool item.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright, Kolthor taking the safe route through the main hub there, not opting for the Spark Gamble, which can save a few frames, but also cost you a heart. You're just going to opt to maintain his health here.
Meanwhile, GLS is making his way to pick up the Ether Tablet and the Ice Rod. We have not yet seen Bridge Squirrel this tournament. Hopefully it stays that way.
Gee, thanks, Scrivo. Now, the next race, you know that's going to happen. So everyone be sure to thank Scrivo when that does show up. But, yeah, squirrels can definitely be a pain on Death Nun. If they block you, it can cost you anywhere from, I want to say like 8 to 10 seconds, something like that.
Alright, so as Kolthor moves through the final few rooms of Meyer, we are coming up on a boss fight to keep an eye on, the Vitreous fight, and we will see exactly which strategy Kolthor has made himself a pupil of. So there's a few different ways that you can look at the Vitreous fight. You can either go for what is known as the WQ Vidi, where you shoot for taking 4 hearts worth of damage, or there's an older strat that takes somewhere between 5 and 6 and does 4 spins. Meanwhile, GLS running away from the bird. Alright, so Kolthor is pretty full up on hearts. Let's see what he does here. Alright, so he is going for the older variation, it looks like. Actually, it looks like a bit of a hybrid there. But does not get the 0 cycle. Misjudged the health on one of those eyes. Takes 2 lightning cycles.
Yeah, it looked like he wanted to get a little bit of an early start on the main eyeball there, but...
But in the end, Vitreous ends up in the ICU.
Sigh! How many... I had to step away there for a second. Just how many eye puns did you make while I was gone?
4.
4? I was gone for like 30 seconds.
I know.
Your puns per second, your PPS is just off the charts, man.
Yeah, my PPS situation was...
Let's not. Let's just stop right there. Alright, GLS, where you at, buddy? Alright, going through Meyer here. Gonna be making his way down to the torches. Gonna be lighting them all up here.
Meanwhile, Kolthor is on his way to the rock.
Really? What's the best Sean Connery you've got?
Yes.
I'm not going to say that I'm going to do any better.
I don't do... Listen, man, the only voices I've got are Grover and Yoda, and that's because they're the same voice with different grammar.
You only got to learn one of them, huh? All right,
You only
so
got to learn one.
Speaking of squirrel blocks, of course, the second Scrivo starts talking about it, they show up. Kolthor getting blocked there on the T-Rock overworld.
Ooh.
Oh, nice. What's down there, Kolthor? I'm going to have to ask him that in the interview later on, too.
So GLS had looked like approximately a 1:18 torches time, so about 4 minutes separating the runners right now.
Ooh, looks like GLS is going for the Spark Gamble, except runs into the Fire Snake and then bails out of the Spark Gamble. Alright, Kolthor are going to be refilling with that friendly fairy underneath the Bonk Rocks there. We're going to be opening up Turtle Rock here, assuming he can solve this most difficult puzzle.
Ah, yes. Hottest peg puzzle since Cracker Barrel.
Wow, dude. That takes me back.
Listen, Mutsky. Listen. I'm funny.
According to...
my children.
Who range in ages from...
I don't see how that's relevant.
Fair enough. As long as you know your target audience.
Yes. So GLS making his way through the back half of Mire to give the eye a good lashing.
Just stop. Just stop. You've made your point, okay? just hurting me now.
I'm helping. And Kolthor is making his way through Turtle Rock. And earlier we talked about prize pack manipulation and whether or not we are going to get a fairy drop. Well, if he has played his cards right and has been a good barbarian, right here he will see a fairy. There it is.
Good barbarian really sounds like an oxymoron.
Well, I mean...
But if there is one out there, it's definitely Kolthor.
I don't know that this is necessarily the time or place to debate the subjectivity of morality, but...
But eye puns, definitely the time for those, right?
Yes. Trying to powder the eyeball, going for pink eye strats, but does not have the magic.
All right, I actually kind of like that.
Turns out that Vitreous has two weaknesses, arrows and conjunctivitis.
You know, it's too bad that that doesn't work, actually. It really seems like it should, so I don't fault GLS at all for trying that.
Meanwhile, Kolthor is dealing with some pokies.
Ooh, I thought he poked that pokey, which, ironically, you don't actually want to do.
No, he saw the Hokuboku and he turned himself around. And that's what it's all about.
Is it, though?
It is.
I think getting the Triforce is what it's all about, Scrivo. And saving Hyrule.
It's like, you know, you set goals. You have a goal and you meet that goal and then you have another goal. You gotta baby steps, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, Kolthor rolling into double pokies here. He's got 16 potential RNGs he can run into. See how he handles this particular one. Pretty well, I would say. Gets a whole bunch of bombs, a heart, and some magic out of it.
Yeah, 10 bombs is a large amount of bombs to have at this point.
Yeah, considering you only need one for the tower, for G
Yes.
Tower coming up.
Yes.
It's maybe slightly excessive, but really, I mean, it's not an issue. It's not really going to cost him any time at all. So, but he's well stocked in case anything were to come along that he would need several explosive devices for. Like maybe some horrible pun-making machine.
Now you're just being mean.
I am. I'm sorry. I'll stop.
Oh, okay, okay. So that's not good. Okay.
I mean, well said, I guess. That's not good. Yeah.
I mean,
but GLS, he handled that really well, actually. Going back into the cave there to respawn those squirrels was a pretty heads-up move by him. But yeah, going to cost him a little bit of time there.
It does a little dance around the portal, eventually makes his way in.
He is going to get down tonight.
Meanwhile, Kolthor is getting to the monster at the end of this dungeon. See, I was going to work the Grover impression in there somewhere.
Right. And well, now we have to hear the Yoda version of it, obviously.
At the end of this dungeon, the monster is...
The man of at least 3 talents, Scrivo, ladies and gentlemen.
And in the time it took for me to do that, Kolthor has killed Trinex, so... I'm glad that we're...
You're so pleased with yourself.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast, though. This is a lot of fun. I hope everyone's enjoying the show.
So GLS is going to make his way into the roller room, and I believe also has the fairy prize pack manipulation set up.
Yeah, a little less important for him considering he does have the powder, and there are anti-fairies absolutely everywhere throughout T-Rock, so he is just going to take as much damage as he wants to, even a little extra here and there, but he should be fine.
Yeah, still probably is hoping for that fairy drop, because he...
I was just going to say, like, he's now at 4 hearts, and so he's now at 3.5 hearts, so...
he's now at 5 hearts.
Alright. He should be not one shot to these
that's unfortunate. He got himself...
Oh, yeah, he just nudged the block a little bit before he managed to...
And then he blocks him.
Push it. Yep.
Nope. And he's dead.
And that is just how quickly that room can go wrong. Chomps are a terrible, horrible enemy, and they should not exist in this game.
Yeah.
Other games, maybe they have some better applications, but this one, just please delete them.
As a great speedrunner once said, that chomp sure was a chomp. I just want to get up. But he'll be able to replenish his bottled stash of fairies coming up. Meanwhile, Kolthor has made his way to the final dungeon, Ganon's Tower. Ganon's Tower is ridiculously fun. It's really dangerous, but it's so fun, especially when you start actually learning how to do some of these rooms at a high level. Got a lot of really cool strats like that boomerang and hook strat. Oh
my.
Okay, and there's the fairy drop.
So speaking of things doing 1,000,000 damage in T-Rock, alright, yeah, good fairy drop there. Both the Pokey and those floating heads, and the laser in that room, do 4 hearts of damage, because the game does expect you to have the blue mail for Mice Palace at that point, so yeah, everything definitely hits like a truck here.
Yeah. So the main gimmick here in Ganon's Tower is you are going to refight all of the bosses from the Light World, Armos, Lanmo, Moldorm, and Aghanim. And we are going to come up on our first one. Each of those refights has a bit of a twist. And the twist here is, if you didn't love ice physics enough yet, you're going to love it now when you refight Armos on ice.
Or just hate them even more.
That's a possibility as well. So, dropping into the Ice Armos fight, gonna do the bottom right strat here, because this will put you in position to finish the fight up right by the door.
Yeah, looking good from Kolthor. Nice early rotation and quick kill there on the Ice Armos. Gonna grab the big key, probably grab these 10 extra arrows here so he's all set for the rest of the dungeon, and then head up to the second floor.
Yeah. So it's important to get that quick kill on Armos, because how fast you get out of the Armos fight dictates how the Ganon fight phase 2 starts, and you want it to be in a predictable pattern. Meanwhile,
GLS?
Do
a little bit of a sightseeing tour here around the Dark Maze Room. Can't really see much except for his immediate surroundings, but he's going to make sure that he just gets 100% map coverage in this room, I guess.
Yeah, I think what GLS is trying to say is life is a platform maze, and he wants to ride it all night long.
No one is saying that ever, anywhere.
Me and Tom Cochran are saying that.
So many clips we have to make.
So, Kolthor cleaning... Ooh! Gets rocked by the Ganon Ball Z, but uses the iframes to dash on through, and we are now at the highlight of Ganon's Tower, the Gauntlet. 5 rooms, kill everything to proceed. You've got conveyors, you got beams, you got horses spitting beams.
Sorry to interrupt here. GLS is on the laser skip doing a really unique setup there that I have not seen, holding his sword out to line up on the correct position that he needed to dash on, and then dashing through the back half of that laser, which does not actually do any damage to you.
Kolthor getting through Gauntlet 4, and he's going to use the big Fire Rod area of effect to kill that Stalfos and get on out. Gauntlet accomplished.
Yeah, he actually did a really good job of handling the ice physics in that room there by using a dash to kind of manipulate his movement.
Yeah, so we're now on to the second Light World boss refight, the Landmolas, but you have a Fire Rod this time, and it's a little bit easier. He misread the RNG on the first Landmo that went left, and ended up with a late 2 cycle.
So interestingly, he is out of magic here, so he correctly and smartly grabs that small magic pot there. He's going to need that for both of these wizard rooms here.
GLS, don't run out of magic. Okay. Okay.
So, yeah.
That was his last Fire Rod shot.
Yeah, he definitely needed to connect with that one. So you see now Kolthor uses the cane in both of those wizard rooms to kill all of them in one cycle, but now he's out of magic, so he's not going to be able to do this torches room the fast way. He's going to need to actually go down to this bottom torch and grab the small magic pot, and then light all of these torches with the lamp, and then grab another small magic pot down at the bottom here, and light the last one with the Fire Rod after he gets the out of magic message buffer off his screen, and he's good to go.
All right. So we're about to see, as GLS finishes up Turtle Rock and makes his way to Ganon's Tower, we are about to see the third Light World boss refight, and this time it is everyone's pal Moldorm. A slightly easier and at the same time slightly more difficult fight, in that you have the Tempered Sword, so he dies a lot quicker, but you're on a much smaller platform, and it's don't necessarily have as much room to move around. But a dash and a spin. Dash and a spin takes care of it.
Nice fight, yeah. Really good stuff. This has been, seems like a pretty solid G tower so far for Kolthor. GLS is on his way there right now.
Yep. And then Kolthor is gonna. Okay, so when this room starts going bad, it starts going bad. This is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just how are you supposed to handle that? You know, like you're moving on all of these, you know, strange surfaces that don't move Link around normally, and they're bumpers, you know, mini helmets flying around everywhere, and you've got a hook shot, and you just don't know what to do. So yeah, it can definitely be a hairy room sometimes. I've definitely seen more than a few runners die there.
Yep. And we're on to our final Light World boss refight. This time the twist with Aghanim is he brought some friends with him. The Geometry Wizard is cleaned up in 3 cycles by Kolthor. No problems here, and we are off to see the big blue pig.
You see a slight difference in the keys that Kolthor and GLS grabbed here. Kolthor skipped past that torch key that GLS just bonked into and grabbed a little bit ago. Really not much of a time difference in between which small keys you grab, about a difference of a second or so, I believe, potentially less. So it really doesn't matter which one you take. It's just kind of a matter of which one you're more comfortable with grabbing. And the torch key is definitely the easiest and safest and most consistent one.
Yep. So we're here now in the Ganon fight, a 4-phase fight. The first and second phase take 8 slashes to get through. Kolthor is through phase 1, gets a RNG he knows how to handle with no problem, is through phase 2. In phase 3, you just have to wait for Ganon to stop warping and slash him at 4 distinct times. And then we're on to the real trick of the fight. Greenham, take us through phase 4 of the Ganon fight.
So phase 4 is going to start with Kolthor executing what is known as the torch glitch, where he's going to try to light the left torch before the right one goes out, which means he only needs to relight the left one when it goes out. And so he's going to be trying to light the torch as soon as Ganon lands, and then spin him with a tempered sword to actually do damage on him within a certain window of frames where Ganon is actually vulnerable. Usually you would need the silver arrows to freeze and damage Ganon, but with the way this game works, you can actually spin him to get that same damage off on him. So you see Kolthor lighting as soon as Ganon lands, and then charging his sword, and then spinning as Ganon teleports away to get the damage on him.
Yeah, he's waiting for Ganon to get into a position where he can get 3 spins per light. That's 8, 9, and 10. And then he's going to get a double here for 11, and GG to Kolthor the Barbarian.
GG, get your axes out.
Meanwhile, GLS finishing up the Ice Armos fight and making his way to the top of the tower.
Nice run, Kolthor. Congrats on the victory, dude. Everybody, let's cheer on GLS as he finishes up G Tower here. Doing the statue pull strategy in the Mimics 1 room, there's a variety of ways that you can manipulate these mimics to get them to do what you want them to do. And pulling the statue is one of the slower ways to do it, but is certainly a very, very consistent way to do it. And there have definitely been top runners in the past who have done that strat.
Meanwhile, we're trying to get Kolthor in here for a little post-race chat. And GLS making his way through the gauntlet. Yeah, considering the third 3 attempts to kill Cold Stare, 136 is a really solid time. It shows that other than that segment, he was on pace or ahead of pace. GLS making his way through the gauntlet and onto the Landmo 2 fight. Powders that fairy. Now, powdering that fairy actually changes this Landmo fight. He delays his entrance, causing all 3 to spawn at the same time, letting him get a spin-off that carries all of them. Meanwhile, we're going to bring in Kolthor. Kolthor, GG, congrats on the win.
How was that a win? Cold Stare.
So my first question for you is, did you know where you were in relation to GLS at any point during the race? Were you watching the restream at all, or did you have his stream open?
I only checked after I beat Argus.
Yeah, you had opened up. So GLS had some misadventures in Hera. He fell to the bomb jump and then died to Moldorm. And then you had to go and get 0 blue balls and opened up a pretty sizable gap. I can only see your main timer, and you don't have like color changing. I'm gonna guess that with that 30 flat sword up on the pyramid, you were well ahead of pace after Light World.
Oh yeah, I was definitely on PB pace going into Ice Palace, without a doubt. Then, then I decided to fire rod the wall and sit there and be salty.
So I gotta ask, after this race, are you gonna that diagonal wiggle setup that you used to time the 8 fire rod shots? Are you gonna carry that into your next race, or are you gonna kind of go back to the lab and maybe tinker with that a bit?
It wasn't the wiggling. I just mistimed my Y presses and hit my fire rod too soon. So I knew I was going to get hit with an ice block, so I tried to go around him to the left, and that's when I...
Oh, okay. You just accidentally shot another one there. Wow.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I saw you after that happened at the beginning of Ice Palace. Just kind of sit there for a little bit, like maybe contemplating, maybe like gathering yourself a little bit. What was
hover.
Oh, wait,
Hover.
right. Sorry to
Hover.
interrupt. Yeah, GLS is going for the hover right now, and he follows. Okay, go ahead, Coldfoot.
That's okay. After the second death, I sat there, I looked at my magic bar, and I was like, is that enough? Can I just go with this, or do I have to farm pickles? And I was like, oh wait, no, I can farm penguins and then get magic that way. And then I was like, okay, I can just go.
Yeah, good thinking there, yeah.
I think at this point, GLS understands that he has taken second place in a race of 2, and is trying to at least extract some joy from the situation.
Yeah, he's just trying to put on a good show right now. I'm trying to hover past Moldorm 2 here. Hovering's a pretty cool trick. Requires some pretty consistent rhythm and spacing and pressure and pretty precise inputs here to try and get across this gap, and he just is not wanting to use the hook shot. So
I've never been able to hover at all ever. But I haven't really sat there and grinded it out. So
yeah, I feel it's one of those things that anyone, if they sit down and watch someone else that knows how to do it and see their technique and just they try it out for a little bit, I really think that anyone is capable of doing it.
Yeah, Zelda tried showing me like 2 years ago and back at AGDQ 2016 or 17, and that didn't go well either.
So I gotta ask. So we expect this tournament to carry through. Groups should end up in at the end of April. You've got a pretty good chance of making it out to the brackets. Brackets should take us through May. And then I'm guessing some things are going to start changing in Barbarian Land around June or July.
Yeah, towards the end of July, I will be a father barbarian.
A little barbarian running around?
Yeah, exactly.
Yo, GLS gets the hover.
Yeah!
Nice job, dude. Way
So,
to show it off.
I gotta say that you shared with me at AGDQ. We had a chance to sit and do an NMG race together. And you shared with me that you were trying to convince Mrs. Barbarian to allow a certain name for Barbarian Jr. And I gotta ask, did you win?
The battle is ongoing. I'm conceding all other fights until this one.
Ooh, nice triple from GLS there on Agatu.
So those curious at the name, it's a perfectly...
Cycle Agatu, let's go! Nice, dude.
Yeah! Bringing the swag.
Good stuff, GLS. Way to cap off that G-Tower.
Hell yeah.
Giving it to him, Agatu, showing him what's up.
So yeah, what exactly would one name a young barbarian given their choice?
Well, assuming it's a boy, because we don't know, we decided that we're going to wait till the day of to find out. But assuming it's a boy, I'm going to be pushing hard for the name Conan.
Conan the Barbarian. It has a ring to it.
That's just a name you don't hear enough anymore these days.
I completely agree. I mean, it's a perfectly normal name. It's not like I'm calling it, like left shoe or something.
Yeah, there are way take a look at celebrities and what they name their kids, right? I mean,
I know, it's like, come on, I'm not calling it Lake Appalachia or some weird crap like that.
Weasel and Moon Unit.
Yeah, exactly.
Just imagine being called on in school, Conan. Yes.
No, they'll mispronounce it. They'll be like, is Conan around? It's like, no, it's Conan.
By Crom.
Praise Crom. Wait, what? 2 deaths in Ice Palace. Seeing that death scroll by.
Yeah.
Hey,
Meanwhile,
not too bad though.
Meanwhile, GLS is finishing up the Ganon fight, getting into phase 4, spin to win, count to 12. Let's go.
Should note though that GLS has not taken any damage through this fight. He dropped in with 2.5 hours, didn't bother going to get a fairy or anything. He may have one in a bottle already stored, but
did he get a bottle?
Yeah, he stopped and got a bottle in that in Dark World.
So, other than, I don't know if you have it handy, but let's say that Ice Palace was, because your Ganon's Tower looked really clean. Actually, everything other than Ice Palace looked really clean. You got the Zero Cycle Argus. It was most of the splits were really good. Would other than that Ice Palace, would that have been the sub 130? Yeah,
definitely, without a doubt. The way everything else went pretty clean. Got trolled a little bit by some squirrels up in Death Mountain, and some weird RNG here and there, but I don't think it was anything that would have stopped me from getting sub 130. I'm so close. My sum of best is a high 126, so I just need to get my consistency up, and then it'll get here.
Yeah, you're definitely due for a big PB, dude. Definitely on the PB watch list for this tournament, certainly.
Yeah, so finishing up with a official speedracing.tv time of 1:45:54, GLS gets his triangles. Let's see if we can get GLS in here to chat. But yeah, 30 flat Light World. That was, you have a lot of good to take away from this race, and
136 with 2 deaths in Ice Palace is still pretty dang good. So
yeah,
nothing to be ashamed of.
So it's you got the first one in groups here, and you probably are going to need at least one more to. Well, you're definitely going to need at least one more to advance, but probably only one. So.
Yeah, this was your first race in the groups, right?
Yeah, I think I'm against Sovereign or
Solidus.
Solidus, yeah, I think I'm against Solidus next. That'll be a real tough one. I'm gonna have the PB to put up a good fight there.
Well, Solidus hasn't. We were joined, by the way, by Greenlinenshirt, but to finish that thought, Solidus certainly has you beat as far as PB, just comparing raw PBs, but Solidus hasn't played the game in 3 years, and found out the day before group selection that he was in the tourney, and hasn't exactly been completing runs at a breakneck pace since then. So I wouldn't count yourself out in that match yet. But we are joined by Greenlinenshirt, who stuck it out and made the best of it in the face of some adversity. GLS, good to have you in here. Congrats on finishing. And Hera, what happened?
Yeah, are you guys able to hear me? I got a new computer set up, so I'm not sure if my microphone's on.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I have a new setup. I'm using a monitor instead of a CRT, and my lineups are all different. So I thought I was on the right pixels, and the Hera, there was no obvious. I just missed my bonk. But for the bomb jump in Palace of Darkness, I thought I was on the right pixel both times. I don't really understand what went wrong, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit more practice on that.
So you're probably using the same, because I also play on an LCD now, and you're probably using the same lineup as me, where you're looking for like a flat line of tile at the bottom of the screen.
No, I use a T in the Lynx tab.
Okay. But yeah, it's also we couldn't necessarily see it. Looked like you did have it, but we'll have to go back and look at it. But yeah,
and then, just nerves get you. And one thing left after another, and I said, you know what? By the way this race is going, I'm just going to go ahead and get all the safeties that I can, other than half magic, because I knew I need them. And towards the end, I started doing pretty well. I don't know. It went okay.
Yeah.
It ended up being a pretty smart decision to grab those safeties. I think it's always a smart race decision. And you guys, I mean, it definitely was really close for a while. After Kolthor had kind of those struggles in Ice Palace, you guys were the gap was significantly lessened. So there was definitely a chance.
Yeah, and you weren't helped out at all by Kolthor getting 0 blue balls.
Yeah. Well, at least I got the hover. That's all I'm caring about, right?
Yeah, dude. The end of your G tower, I gotta say, major props for that. That was a pleasure to watch. You got the hover straight into the 2-cycle Agatu.
Yeah, and then a 1-for-1 Ganon.
Yeah, that was
ridiculous,
man. Really well done on that.
Well, good race, Kolthor, if you're still there. I appreciate it.
I am. Thank you. Good race for you as well.
All right, so let's go ahead and pull up the schedule and let you know what's going on. If you have not yet had enough Link to the Past tonight, you can flip over to Speed Gaming 4 and catch another group stage match. It's Negazeus versus Oh Hey It's David. But then tomorrow we have got some matches going on. At 1:30 p.m., Vascos versus Decluty24. At 4 p.m., more Decluty24, this time versus Chex Human. At 6:30 p.m., Felix TC versus Solidus. At 8 p.m., we have a double feature, Greffrey versus In the Name of DT, and TB Ham versus Node. At 8:30 p.m., we've got Kyong92 versus Sharilla. At 10 p.m., we've got Feral Pigman versus Tina Hacks. We have got a full afternoon of Link to the Past for you. You will be able to catch it live all across the Speed Gaming family of networks. We are going to have a ton of matches. We've got 192 matches to get through in these groups, and we have just begun. So if Link to the Past is your thing, we will have plenty of it for you. So Kolthor or GLS, any final thoughts?
No, just thanks for having us. It was fun, and I look forward to the next races.
One thing I want to say, Kolthor, I convinced my wife to let me name my son after Wolverine. So you really got to pull for naming him Conan.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
All right, good stuff, guys. Thanks for joining us.
You guys have a great night.
Definitely give these runners a follow. I just dropped the command in the chat, but keep an eye on these guys. I know Kolthor streams a lot, plays a lot of other games, and GLS has a very nice looking stream as well. Streams every once in a while, so definitely give those guys a follow, support them. Give Speed Gaming a follow here on all the channels if you aren't already. As Scrivo listed, we have plenty of more action coming at you tomorrow. Going to be a great day of races. There's been something exciting in every single one of these so far, so please stick around and keep watching. We thank you for being here and watching this evening.
Yep. And if you like what you see across the Speed Gaming family of networks, be sure to throw one of these Speed Gaming channels, pick a number 1 through 4, throw them a sub, throw them some bits, show some love for the hard work that Feasel and his team have put on to let us bring tournaments like the No Major Glitches tournament and all the other programming that's happening right now. There's Super Mario Sunshine tournament, there's Cuphead, there's Shantae, there's the ever-present randomizer. Every time you turn around, Speed Gaming is bringing to you the latest of speed running programming. So make sure to show your appreciation. That will do it for us here. I've been joined, as always, it was a pleasure, by Greenham, and I have been, and will continue to be, Scrivo. Say goodnight, Greenham.
Good night, Greenham.
See you later, guys.